Well, ladies, we have got lots going on in the news, lots and lots going on in the news. I know we've talked about the NFL and their protest, really a silent protest during the national anthem when they decided, after Colin Kaepernick led the effort, to take a knee in protest of the way African Americans were being beaten and some unarmed men and women being killed by police. And as you know, that struck up a lot of controversy, a lot of it fueled by our president. But recently, the NFL, who just last year supported the players, have now instituted a policy requiring the players to stand for the national anthem or either stay in the locker room. What you think?
I think it's a tragedy that we're dealing with this when it's a deflection off of why he took the knee in the first place.
Yeah.
We're having more of a conversation about this than we are having a conversation about what it was, the intent.
Absolutely.
And so it's a deflection. No one wants to talk about what's most important is that we are being treated as subhuman and in the African American community, and something has to be done. And so I think we need to talk louder instead about the knee and the anthem. We need to continue to talk louder about the abuse and not even engage in the conversations about whether or not we should take a knee or not, because that's not what's most important. What's most important is why he did it in the first place, and he risked his entire career on
Which
it.
he did. I mean, he hasn't been able to.
He still doesn't have a
He
job.
doesn't have a job
Right,
today.
and so what's dominating the media is the flag, and that's not what needs to be dominating the media. We really should be talking about the abuse.
Yeah. But the president has handily made it about something else, about about the lack of being a patriot, the lack of having respect for the military. I'm serious.
And I don't see that. I don't see that being as unpatriotic and anti-military. I mean, I think it is patriotic to have protest, as long as...
the country was founded on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, it's easy for some people to talk about patriotism and love of country when you're sitting in the stands, drinking a beer, having a hot dog. But it's not so easy to be patriotic and have love of country when you're an individual, either being handcuffed at Starbucks or tased in your front yard. So I totally agree with Angela that, the focus, and I think it's a big deflection over the real issue here. And I don't see it as unpatriotic. I mean, I was doing a little research on this, and, what better venue or stage than to have all those millions of people watching football games to have a silent protest.
Right.
This is not the first time that the football players have protested. I was reading back in 1965, the American Football League was to have a all-star game in the city of New Orleans. And back in 65, it was a segregated city. So therefore, a lot of the players refused to play in New Orleans. And so they had to move it to another venue. And guess what? After that happened, New Orleans changed its policies. So it works. It absolutely works. And it has been in the history of civil rights to have silent protests, respectable, not, causing chaos or anything like that, to bring about change in this country. So, to say that, it's disrespectful, unpatriotic, I totally disagree with that.
And the weird thing about it is, the country, as you mentioned, was founded on protest.
Sure.
America
Right.
was founded as a result of a protest against what was happening over in England. So we cannot deny that the right to protest when it's so inherent in our DNA and in our Constitution.
Sure.
But that's nevertheless, I agree with you, Angela, I agree with you, Kelly, but that's not where we are. I mean, what he has made this, and it's not just the president, it's people who've willingly gone along with it. And the media is in part to blame too. But what this debate has become is about patriotism. And it does
It's a
take away
deflection.
from the real issue.
But until we, like you said, they refused to play in New Orleans, we'll see that they were dipping in their pockets. And until we start dipping
That's
in
right.
pockets,
Right.
until we start dealing with money, their monies, then we won't see change. And so, how can we do this? You know, I know players have bills to pay, but what if their major players decided they just weren't going to play?
Yeah.
They were going to strike.
Yeah.
Now we're really dealing with their pockets.
And I honestly think that, you know, that may very well happen. It may very well happen because a lot of people felt betrayed from what I'm hearing in the news reports after the NFL last year, as I said, as a body supported the players, and now to say you can either stand or stay in the locker room, you know, that is a total turnaround from where from where they were. And it is kind of ironic that we would be saying this about the players who are silently protesting, respectfully taking a knee, when Roseanne Barr screams and spits, and then after screeching the national anthem out, she grabs her crotch. And what happens for her? She gets her show. She got her show, you know, the revived version of the show until she crossed yet another line. And I just think that we're very hypocritical when it comes to black folk taking a position, or people of color taking a position and protesting. It's looked at totally different than when others do.
I think they should stay in the locker room and don't come out
Period.
at all. Right. When it's time to play, don't come out. And then see what happens, because you got to return all that ticket money. We're not coming out for the anthem, but we're not coming out. Period.
Here. Well, you know, they might just do that.
That's exactly
And that would be the demise of the NFL, because 70% of NFL players are African Americans.
That's right.
So that would be a big problem for the NFL, and then they'll listen.
They would listen.
They would
That
listen,
would get their
absolutely.
attention.
Money always does.
Money always does. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Well, our president ignited another firestorm. So
Really? I can't believe that.
That's right. Over the national anthem, even after the NFL changed its policy by uninviting the Philadelphia Eagles to the White House, our NFL champions. Do you think this move was a distraction, given that the policy was changed, it was already changed and announced?
I don't think he uninvited the Eagles because of the policy change. I think he uninvited them because only 10 of them said they were showing up.
They weren't going.
They weren't going anyway, so he didn't want to look bad. So he said, well, never mind.
But
you
that's
can't
so
come
crazy.
anymore. That's what I think would happen.
Immature.
It is. It's the
But he
height
has
of
to
immaturity.
dominate the media. He has to. I mean, when the attention has to come back on him, and with his tweets, and he has to dominate. And of course, it's an embarrassment, because I think it was only like maybe the coaches that were coming, and the players weren't coming,
And he didn't want that
and
photo
he didn't
op.
want that photo op, right?
I don't understand now, you know, I think, you know, this is true that he really probably should be analyzed, but I don't understand how you can think you can treat people the way he treats people, just in conversation, his language, the kinds of things he says, and then expects people to respect him. He is basically taking away respect from the presidency.
Yes,
You know,
yes, from the office itself.
from the
Oh,
office
yes.
itself.
I
And that is something that's going to be harder to get back than just, you know,
Yeah.
people not liking him as a person. The presidency is being destroyed by the things that he does and says. And this is just another example. I mean, he got his way. The NFL caved, and he still is doing what he's doing every day. Have you been noticing he's still talking about the NFL and how those guys aren't patriotic and because they don't want to stand? It's ridiculous.
He really needs to be examined.
I think so.
He needs to be examined. But I think, and we're going to see even more because of the stress and the pressure of that job anyway.
Yeah.
And then we know there's something there that's
Yeah.
missing. And so we're going to see more impulsive decisions, and there's no one there to rein him in.
Right, because Congress won't do it.
No one there
Congress
to rein
won't
him
do
in. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just a diversionary tactic because he doesn't want to talk about the Russia investigation. It's so much easier to talk about the NFL and taking a knee than to talk about this
What's going on.
investigation that's going on, and they keep digging.
It's not an investigation, it's a witch hunt.
Oh, yeah, well.
It's a witch hunt.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
gonna like forgive himself and
Pardon himself.
yeah, pardon himself. Like that's
I mean,
crazy.
that's
I thought that was unbelievable.
But
that he said that.
every time, if
Yeah.
you notice that we get closer
Close
to something on the Russia investigation, something crops up that brings it even closer to him and his family, he reverts back to one of these real divisive types of issues, like this, the anthem and the players. He always does it. He never misses an opportunity because he knows at the end of the day that will distract enough people.
And the media falls for it. They follow
Every time.
and except for Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
You know, but the rest of them, they let it dominate, just dominate. And so he's really getting the satisfaction
Yeah.
that he wants from it. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the real issue with the president and why he keeps doing this is that he has a particular disdain for people of color,
Yes.
particularly African Americans. And I mean, it's so obvious in everything that I've seen him do since he's been in office.
And even with the people of Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
he
just
don't like them either.
Yeah.
He doesn't like them.
We know.
You don't like it.
And that's sad too,
Yeah,
because when the news came out about there being perhaps over 4,000 people to die in Puerto Rico, that's when he jumped back on this too.
Yeah.
Because it was all around that same time. Mueller's investigation was cranking up, and then the report came out about the numbers not being 64, which is what he had said initially, and actually being closer to maybe 4,000 or more people dying.
And that's a tragic story.
Some of them
That
still
did
have no
to be.
utilities.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I have family are still having problems with utilities and
Goodness gracious.
getting things, back to normal. But up next, another controversial topic. This one closer to home. The governor is moving forward to prevent Medicaid from receiving services from Planned Parenthood. So stay tuned.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else? Or will you dare do something different? Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget.
That would be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you going to make of me?
Welcome back. We are delighted to have with us today Ms. Vicki Ringer. Vicki is the director at Planned Parenthood of South Atlantic for the state of South Carolina. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm delighted to be with all of you celebrities.
Yes. As I say, we are not the View, but we're the next best thing.
I think you've got the view beat.
Oh, good. Good. Well, listen, this topic is such a timely one with all that's happening for women generally. Tell us, before we get too deep in the weeds, about what the governor is attempting to do with regard to Medicaid clients and Planned Parenthood.
Certainly. In August of 2017, Governor McMaster signed an executive order that would deny Medicaid patients the opportunity to go to Planned Parenthood for their regular health care. Not abortions, but regular health care, things like pap smears, breast exams, checks for cervical cancer, general health care, birth control. Planned Parenthood provides health care to 10% of our patients, our Medicaid patients, and he wants to deny the few patients that are coming to us as a trusted provider.
So what's the purpose? I mean, if you are providing all of these other services, many people are thinking that all you do is provide abortions.
Well, and one thing that I think the governor is intentionally confusing people about is what Medicaid pays for. It does not pay for an abortion. There are 3 exceptions under which Medicaid will pay for an abortion: rape, incest, and to save the life of the woman. In South Carolina last year, that meant 22 women, and all of those happened in a hospital, not a single one at a Planned Parenthood health center. But he's using the politics of it all, because Planned Parenthood has become a target for a lot of Republicans to focus on women. But they're focusing on the wrong people, because what we know is that 84% of people in South Carolina, regardless of their age, their race, their gender, or their political party, believe that abortion should remain safe and legal, at least in some cases. Only 16% believe it should be banned in all cases. So he's pandering to a very small minority of people in this state.
Absolutely. Well, don't you think that it's impacting women beyond just, like you said, just the abortion, the few people who are getting an abortion? It's a larger number of women who are going to be denied medical services altogether.
Absolutely. I think we already know we've got a shortage of healthcare providers in this state. We are short Medicaid providers. We have few OBGYNs, and now they're trying to deny Medicaid patients the opportunity to go to Planned Parenthood. And we have patients from the age of 13, 14, all the way up to in their 70s. So it's not just women who are getting birth control or who are in their reproductive years. Women come there because they trust that our doctors are reproductive care experts. And we know that we are. For 100 years, we have been fine-tuning birth control and reproductive care. The county health departments, the free clinics, they've all said if Planned Parenthood closes, we don't have the capacity to handle their patients.
Wow.
And already they're referring their reproductive care patients to us because we're considered experts. So if they can't handle it, then what are women to do? And we already know we're getting patients from all 46 counties. They're not just coming from Columbia and Charleston, where we have health centers. They're coming from all over the state and from Georgia and North Carolina.
Really? Yeah, I was also one of the people that thought that Planned Parenthood only did abortions. So that's basically what you're saying on the federal level. What about on the state level? The state reimburse you or any state health plans?
We get reimbursements from Medicaid and from the state insurance plan, and the total amount of that money is about $82,000. Now, to hear some politicians like Henry McMaster talk, you'd think it's millions. But just this past week, the governor said he would turn down $34 million in family planning dollars from the state, from the national Medicaid funds, in order to defund Planned Parenthood. So he wants to turn down $34 million in order to save $82,000.
Wow.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And of course it's low-income women who are hurt the most, because already we know so many doctors that will not accept Medicaid patients.
Right.
Absolutely. So there were over 5,000 abortions in South Carolina last year. Do you think there's something we can do to lessen that?
That's a great question, because there absolutely is. And the number one thing that stops abortion is birth control. We know it works. We just don't make it readily available, especially to low-income women. And in this state, what we know is that women that aren't covered by insurance or have low incomes cannot afford birth control. You know, you think about just 1 month's pack of pills without insurance could cost you anywhere from $25 to $35. For a woman who's making minimum wage, that's a full day. So she's more likely to take a risk with her partner so that she can put food on the table rather than buy birth control. So, and we saw just this past year, we had a great plan to provide free birth control for a full year at a time. And it passed the House.
It did.
Thank you, Representative.
It did.
But the Senate didn't pass it. But that would have, we've seen the success in other states when that's passed. We've just got to make birth control readily available. Unfortunately, some of our legislators don't support birth control.
So if these free clinics don't have the capacity to serve these Medicaid clients, where are they going to go if Planned Parenthood cannot serve them?
The bad thing is that they won't go anywhere. Women who don't have access to a doctor tend not to go. And mothers especially, if they've got money, they're going to take care of their children first.
Right.
Women take care of themselves last. And what we see when that happens is that unintended pregnancies go up, abortions go up, cancer goes up, maternal mortality goes up. That means women dying during pregnancy, and that still happens in this state, sadly. We're one of the worst states in the country for women dying during pregnancy.
So we have this effort to keep women from being able to access really all of the services at Planned Parenthood.
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, we are not expanding Medicaid.
We are not
So we
expanding
are really
Medicaid.
closing the door for healthcare opportunities for hundreds of thousands of people.
You are absolutely right. We need to expand Medicaid in this state. We have 200,000 people who will
Yeah.
instantly qualify and improve their lives so much.
Wow.
Well, what would you recommend for women who are watching today? What would you recommend, or men actually, because you provide services to men and women? Is that
Well, one
right?
of the first things I tell everybody is that we treat uninsured women. So do not hesitate to come to a Planned Parenthood for health care, even if you don't have insurance. We'll help you.
Oh, wow, that's good. So hopefully the request that the governor has asked of the federal government will not be approved, and we'll be able to continue the services that you're providing.
That's what we hope, or a new governor in November.
Well, Ms. Bringer, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
This
you.
is such an important issue, and we'll talk about this topic some more on
Great.
the other side of the break.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
Well, welcome back. As we were discussing before the break about how the governor's request to ban Medicaid patients and clients from receiving any Planned Parenthood services, what do you think would be the impact of that, ladies, if that is in fact passed?
I think we're going to have a lot of women that won't go to the doctor, and a rise in illnesses. And when you have women that are ill, then children are not taken care of, and so it has a ripple effect in the homes and the communities, and so I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah, and then you're going to have women who show up in the ER, emergency room, for services that they could have gotten at Planned Parenthood or at the doctor. And that's going to, like you say, have an adverse impact on everybody, because when emergency room rates go skyrocket, health insurance plans go up. So it's just not a wise move.
No,
Yeah, it's a mean move to deny
It is
people
cruel.
health care. Yeah,
It's
it
cruel.
really
It's
is.
cruel.
It really is.
And to deny health care and medical treatment as it relates to birth control is going to, what? More unplanned pregnancies and possible abortions. So I really don't understand the logic behind this. It would have a great adverse effect.
And I know this is veering over in the left field, but you got to think, if you're not allowing women to plan their pregnancies according to their abilities and their family desires, then basically, and then once children who may have been unwanted are in fact born, you're not providing the kinds of services to these women, many of them poor, because in South Carolina, the minimum wage is the federal minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. Then, you are basically perpetuating not only poverty, but a whole lot of other ills, crime and everything else, when people are born into poverty, have to live into poverty, and most likely will die in poverty.
Now, do you think he's doing that because of religious reasons, or is it that, because some people feel that because you're on Medicaid, you shouldn't get the same services, medical services, like someone that has private health insurance?
Probably right. They probably believe that, but that's not a valid belief.
Right.
I mean, people who are on Medicaid, it's a federally administered program. It should be done in a non-discriminatory way.
Yeah.
And it honestly, I think people who need help should be treated with dignity.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and don't get me started on the religious part, because it's not very religious to treat people away, to deny them access to basic health care.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, do you think it's a violation of the equal protection under the law, that it would be a violation?
Oh, absolutely, I would agree. I mean, the whole point of equal protection is equal protection.
Right.
So if you have one segment of your population not being served, equally, then I think it would be discriminatory.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's in itself is a problem.
And you know who this will fall most disproportionately on in South Carolina? People in rural communities.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
You know, where you already have
Who are already distressed.
And don't have
lack of-
access.
Exactly.
And
And
don't
now
have
you're going to
access.
take away that
Even
access,
more.
deny it under Medicaid. That's a bad situation. So.
It is.
So when is the decision going to be made?
That's a good question. And we probably should have asked Vicki when she was doing the last segment, but I understand that there are other states who are trying to do the same crazy kind of thing, and they have been waiting for a year or more, and maybe the federal government will wait. But you have to understand, a year or so ago, we had a different president.
Yeah.
Right, that's
And
true.
now we have a president who doesn't think like President Obama's administration did, and they may very well expedite these decisions and make a lot of crazy decisions that impact people's health very negatively. And the craziest part about it from a political standpoint, the states that are going to be most adversely impacted are the states with the highest level of poverty,
Right.
which is those are the states that the Republicans tend to do well in.
Sure.
So
Those are his
Right.
base.
Those are his base.
Yeah.
So it's not even, to me, a wise political move, but it's all about politics.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all
So
about
Wendy,
politics.
as a legislator, what do you think the community could do to try to stop this from becoming a reality?
I think that's a good question, and you saw it kind of happen with the filibuster that happened in the Senate a couple of months ago, and I think we're going to have to be more engaged. We're going to have to get on the phone. We're going to have to call our legislators, and we're going to have to call some of the legislators that aren't our legislators, that don't necessarily represent us, to let them know our displeasure with taking health care away, because even though it may only impact a certain few people, it will ultimately impact everyone.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Okay. Good.
that's really important. Well, I wish we could talk about this a little more, but ladies, we are flat out of time. So listen, believe it or not, we are at the end of the show.
Oh, wow.
That was a very quick show. So ladies, great discussion today. It seems like time went by so fast. And folks, guess what? That completes our show today. We hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned something that really empowers and inspires you.